Hello and welcome to the first edition of 2016 of Sadler's TV. Youth Matters is on the agenda for tonight's show, so what better two people to have than Head of Academy Coaching Graham Biggs and Academy Manager Neil Woods. Thanks for joining us, chaps. I know you just got back from a result with Leicester City with the youth team. Tell us how you got on.
We lost the game 2-1. They've got a Youth Cup game coming up on Monday. Asked for a game which suits us down the ground because the lads have had a good fortnight off. We were very, very pleased. We were 1-1 at half time, scored a terrific goal through Rory Oliver, and the difference in the teams was very minimal. Second half, Leicester got a little bit stronger. Eventually they scored a goal, 85th minute, but for us, the gap is there, but it's not as big as people would think it would be.
Neil, you've been here 4.5 years now. I think it's fair to say we've experienced a lot of success during that time in terms of players coming through from the youth team into the senior side. What's that down to?
I think it's down to the foundations that the club put in place well before I came into the club. I've played against Walsall youth teams for a number of years. They've always been very good. They've always had good players. I came in, like you say, 4.5 years ago. The alterations, everybody changes things slightly to the way they like them, but the staff in place were very good and the structure's good. And more than anything, the ethos and the philosophy of the club is to bring players through. So you've got lads in the system that believe they can come out, and that's a massive thing in youth football.
If you take Rico Henry as an example, I know he books a lot of trends because he's a fantastic talent. Were the signs there early on that Rico had the potential to go on and be a top player and make it as a professional so early in his career?
Yeah, he's still got to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing about Rico is Rico knows that. And that's the big plus. At 14, 15, he was good. At 16, he was playing in the youth team. I remember chucking him in his very first game in a Youth Cup game away at Port Vale. And he was fantastic. After 10 minutes, me and Graham looked at each other and knew we'd made the right decision. Mm-hmm. It was then about managing him. Those that know Rico, and he's one of the reasons why he will go on and have a good career, is his attitude to everything you ask him to do is fabulous. If it's a challenge, he likes a challenge. So we had to manage him throughout that year. I think he played in the Midlands Cup final for us that year.
As a 16.
As 17, he was very good. We didn't see a right lot of him when he was 18, but his attitude is the key to allied with the ability he's got, which will make him go on.
You mentioned Rico and how he was playing above his age group when he was 16 playing the youth team. Is that something that we do with all players if they're showing that potential to then challenge themselves? They're not bound to that age group per se. They can move on if they need to.
Yeah, that may be. I think Graham would probably say that was one of the things that I changed when I came in. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer that age is irrelevant. It's all about ability. So my remit is not to get as many second years through, it's to get as many players through. So we create a competitive environment. So if at 16, 17 you're playing better than the 18s, you play. Because otherwise, schoolboy phase is everybody gets rotated, which is right. But you're now becoming a professional. Even though you're an apprentice, you're getting paid to play football. You're in a competitive environment. So it has to be competitive. So if you're playing well, why should you come up the team? And that's what will go on when you become a pro. So to me, age becomes irrelevant. It's all about performance levels and ability.
You mentioned Rico's attitude. How much of a player's success is down to that? I know you have to have a certain amount of natural talent, but how big a part does their attitude play in determining how far they go in their career?
Unbelievably. I've worked with some players whose talent has been fantastic. Their application's not been there, their desire, their competitiveness has just been short. I've also worked with players that have been very limited, that have gone on and made really good careers because their interest, their concentration, their focus to get better has been so good that they've made themselves a career at the game.
Graham, I'm going to throw a stat at you if I can. 65% of scholars taken on each year rejected at 18. Half of those who do win a full-time contract will not be playing professional football by 21. Put another way, 5 of every 6 scholars won't be playing football for a living in 5 years' time. How big a problem is that?
I think that ultimately is dependent on the club. I think this club books the trend with that. A lot of clubs give the boys coming out of scholars 12 months pro contracts. That's to say they bed in and how they develop with professional men. think our club tends to book the trend with that, and they give them 2 years if they can see, the option of them progressing. We also try and put them out on loan with at sort of semi-pro team clubs again to play competitive football with men and see how they develop that way. We've just had Jordan Murphy out at Kidderminster, who's done well, scored some goals, but with the new gaffer coming in, obviously he's brought him back to assess him. On the other thing you asked Neil about age, we try and push the schoolboy phases. If the boys are really flying high in schoolboy phases, we'll quite happily move them up an age group.
How difficult is that decision-making process as to whether a player who's 16 gets a scholarship and then from getting a scholar to a pro? Because you work with these boys day in, day out.
Yep.
You obviously get close to them in a professional sense, but how difficult is that to tell a player that he's obviously not going to have a career here, but that's not to say that he won't move on and continue somewhere else?
It's difficult. Like I say, you're working with somebody for 2 years, basically 10 months at a time, and you get to know them in and out. I think part of being professional and doing your job is to keep the right distance. You want them to respect you. You want them to feel comfortable to approach you with problems and issues, but there's a limit to where it goes. It's difficult because I guess the harder ones for us are when we have meetings all the time. We have meetings every fortnight about progressions and of players, and if we think they're not right, we drop them back down again. Occasionally there'll be times when the first team manager would say, I don't see him ever playing in my team. We would take them. That's part of anyone's job. You can only give your opinion on that. And it works the other way sometimes. Sometimes people see things in that you don't. So I guess the longer you do it, you back your opinion, and if someone's above you in the position says no. For me, I've been in different clubs where managers have taken players on my opinion, my advice, having worked with them, but I've never really thought they were good enough. So therefore they never really give them the benefit of the doubt. They never give them a chance. So the longer I've done it, I'm in total agreement. The decision has to be from the manager. He's the one that's going to pick them in at the next level. If he doesn't see them ever getting there, then it's the right decision not to take them.
How do you assess our current crop of youngsters? Just looking here, third in the North West Division, 7 wins, 3 draws, 4 defeats. A few of it appeared in development games as well, as just alluding to what you're saying, pushing them on into reserve team games. What do you make of our current youth team?
We've got a group of very good footballers at the moment. We need to compete a little bit more on a one-to-one individual basis. We're very well structured. We're trying to. Football goes in phases, and at the moment football's very tactical. You go and watch 2 academy teams at Category 1, and if you see 2 shots in the game, you'll do well. Everybody will keep possession of the ball. They don't go anywhere. So our philosophy is to empower players to make decisions, because ultimately that's what you have to do when you play football. So at the moment we are probably playing in general 5 to 6 first years in every under 18 game we played, under 17s that is. So that's good. That we'll see where they'll benefit from that next year. The top end of the second years are looking very strong. We have 2 or 3 players in nearly every game we play at the moment that are the best players on the pitch, which is ultimately what it's about for us.
How competitive is the division? You watch a lot of football. How competitive is this league that the youth team are in?
When I go on different courses, a lot of people say that the Northwest, which is the division league that we're in, is the most competitive. Again, we've gone into national competitions and always sort of held our own with them, but it's very competitive. What's pleasing for us, and again talking about development, we're always in the sort of top 3-4 in the league, which is great.
Before we go to a short break, how do you get that competitive edge into your players? How do you produce that?
Very difficult. It's very difficult. The majority of that comes from within, and that, I guess, is part of our selection system. It's not just on the technical and tactical ability. It's like we spoke about earlier. It's what is within. You get issues where first years are a little bit intimidated because they can get up against a 6'2", 6'3" lad who's had a year's full training on, and there is a big difference. There is a big difference. What we want to do is to see them competing, If they compete and physically they're not quite there, that's okay.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 or 3 that have to get a little bit braver and probably trust themselves. They're better than they think they are at the moment. They have to believe that they can compete at that level, because we see them day in, day out. We've seen them for 3 or 4 years. Their talent is definite, and we've seen them compete at their own age group. If you're being realistic, once you go from youth football, you're always playing with people older than you.
We'll come on to that in the second half of the show. That's all we've got time for the first half. Join us in a few moments' time. Welcome back to the second half of Sadler's TV. Graham Biggs and Neil Woods alongside me. We're talking youth football today. Graham, you mentioned something during the break that I thought was quite interesting, that competitive edge that we're trying to install into players, and what the Under-16 League brings to it. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
We've been to various Football League meetings, and as we spoke about in the break, there's no competitive football until the Under-18s League, which is crazy because you're trying to produce competitive footballers to play first-team football. And over a course of a few years, they've decided to bring an under-16s competitive league in, which is north west, north east, south east, south west. The 2 northern winners of the leagues play the northern final, 2 southerns, and then there's a national final. And last year we actually came runners up in the league, and this year we've actually won the league. So we've actually won the Northwest League. So we're trying to introduce again the competitive edge while still developing players. And at the moment, it seems to be working. That seems to have been doing the trick.
Brings me on to quite nicely to my next question. In your minds, how important are results? Because a lot of coaches will say that they're not at both academy level and youth team, and yet others think they are important. We want to be winning divisions. What's your take on how important results are from an academy basis?
I think the results are important if the philosophy of the club is being followed. If you start putting sort of big strapping boys at the top of the field and start lumping balls through and winning games like that, then they become derogatory. If you're trying to play the football the way the philosophy of the club is, and you're getting the results, that's where you get competitive things coming through, and hopefully you're getting the right balance between the two. Again, in the break we were saying, if our 18s or our 16s won the league and we managed to get to a national final, if we don't perceive the boys quite good enough, then hopefully it opens the window of opportunity to other clubs for those boys, because they're the winners, and ultimately every club's after a winner.
Is that the key, Neil, the fact that the philosophy comes first and results hopefully come with that?
Yeah, again, we're trying to produce professional footballers. Walsall supporters want to see the game played the right way, but they want to see the team win. So the result has to be important for the player. If he doesn't have the winning mentality, again, like we spoke earlier, the ability then is a bit pointless. So we're not win at all costs. We're winning. We want to win playing the football we want to play, and players developing and getting better. One of the problems, in my opinion, in Category 1-2, you can watch the best game of football ever. Like I said earlier, you get 2 shots in it. You see lads what we take from the bigger clubs that come in here, they play good football without a purpose. Football has to have a purpose. It's just a sport, it's a competitive thing where one team is trying to win. And if you speak to the lads at the bigger clubs, that's the problem they say now. There's the players are a muchness. They're all just nice footballers, but they don't have that extra bit that means they're winners.
You talk about competitive edge. I want to talk about the physicality of players. Gray, you love a running drill, I know firsthand.
Yeah.
How much do we bring on the fitness of young players from a 16, then the step up to a youth team and then onto the pros?
Again, the way the club is set up, we've got Dean Harris, who is head of our sports science. So we've got a programme which runs through from 9s right the way through to 21s, the same programme, obviously tailored to each individual age group and needs. 16s are on day school release, so they do fitness work and gym work with Dean Harris. The under-18s, full-time boys, have got their own individual programmes, plus we put programmes on for them, individual league groups, and mixing it up. So therefore, the strength and conditioning is, as again, it's gone to a different level now with having Dean in.
I mentioned a trend before we went on air, just to say that there used to be a perception that you had to get players that were powerful, 6'4", strong, quick, You said that's never been your opinion when you look at players.
Oh, I'd love one of them, as long as he can play.
Yeah.
My philosophy has always been you've got to be able to play the game. You know, if it was just about that, then everybody in football would be 6'4", quick, strong, run all day. Football's a skill. It's an ability that you have to have, and if you can have the physicality with it, then it obviously gives you the better chance of getting to a higher level. But ultimately, you have to be able to play football. You have to understand the concept. To me, at any level of football, you can't lose a game because someone's fitter than you and because they've got more enthusiasm. If they end up being better than you after 90 minutes, sometimes you've got to live with that. So we work the boys hard, but we work them hard to a point to try to give them the best chance to get to where they have to get to. You look in our first team dressing room, there's not one person in there, our player, that's not a good athlete. I mean, our captain is a phenomenal athlete. Probably, by his own admission, he's not the most technical footballer in the world. He's had a fabulous career, will continue, I think, for another 2 to 3 years at least. He'll probably stay longer because he keeps himself in good condition. So it's a myth that there's you've had to be fitter nowadays. You've always had to be fit. There's just more science to help you get fit nowadays.
Let's talk about the other aspect then of the game, the technical ability. A lot of accusations levelled at English players in particular. We're not technically as gifted as our European counterparts. Do you agree, disagree, certainly from a youth point of view?
I think a lot is down to climate. Ultimately, we do so much work. Again, I don't know, again, other clubs, our philosophy is technically based. Players, we do it every single day with the 18s. We do at least an hour's worth of technical work. I do that with the schoolboy phase. But I think sometimes if you go out on a blowy, windy, horrible pitch, how can they do that? You know, when you're comparing us to the Spanish, Neil did his academy licence at Valencia, and every day was just out there, the sun was shining, perfect grass, perfect conditions. And I think that we do produce technical players, but I think our climate needs to be looked at. What we do, sometimes again, you go to the bigger clubs, they have all the facilities, the domes and whatever, but when they get out there, you can't control the weather, and I think that's where you have to look at the technical side of it, really.
Would you go along with that, Neil? Same?
Totally agree. I think it's a myth. I think technically we don't have any players that go abroad that struggle, do we? And I know our people will argue that they're the best players that go over there. I think the game of football is different. Our game is changing. It used to be a lot about pace and strength, like you say. I think with different tactical systems coming in, probably with more foreign managers coming in, I think there's become a bigger emphasis on the technical side of it. I don't think our players struggle with that at all.
You've had a stint at first team management. What's the main difference between trying to manage those professionals and the young players?
There's a lot of difference. One of the main differences is at youth, the players are more receptive for information. They want to listen a little bit more. In my experience, a lot of the players I work with knew it all. How we got relegated out of the Football League when they knew it all and were so good, I'm not quite so sure. With that and obviously my managerial qualities, we managed to do what we did. I think kids come in with a almost a blank piece of paper. They want to be educated. They want to learn. I've got to say, from what I had when I worked with, and there were some good lads there as well, to what Dean assembled here, were totally different. The pros here do want to learn. They do want to question things, which I think any coach likes because it shows an interest. To me, the attitude of the different groups is totally different. I like working with the lads. I like seeing the progression. There's nothing gives us more pleasure when we see them playing out there, and you look at 4 or 5 of them now, and they're men now. They were boys when they first came into us. They're men, and they're nice people. They're genuinely nice, good people that will go on and make a good career. Sure.
How much of what we do mirrors what the first team do then? Is there any continuity from the youth team up to the first team?
Yeah, I think the style of play. I think again we talk about philosophy an awful lot, but the philosophy of the club is the philosophy. Again, we spoke about Dean Harris. Dean Harris, he's worked with the first team. He's worked with us as an intern. He's now full-time head of sports and science. And I think that the continuity is that technically based players, possession based players, attacking football. That is what we try and do. That's what we try and breed from nines right the way through.
Just looking here at the team behind you, Kyle Kirby, analyst, Dean Harris, strength and conditioning slash sports science, and Jamie Stewart. How key are those guys to making your job a little easier?
They're massive, because we Neil mentions that we have meetings. We actually have meetings almost every day, because we speak about players every single day, and not only the under 18s, we speak about the whole of the academy, the schoolboy phase, and because we've got such a close knit team, we actually are aware of every sort of age group and boy within the academy, which is brilliant.
Right in saying Wrexham next up at the weekend. Let's hope the weather holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always great games at Wrexham. Joey Jones, I'm sure the older viewers will know. He always chucks something different in, Joey. They're restricted with not being in the Football League with funding, what they can do, but they're always interesting games. We played them twice. We beat them once in the league at home, and they knocked us out of the cup in a really good game. How we lost it, I'm still not sure to this date, really, are you? But we just want to play. You know, it sounds a stupid thing. We're one of them rare football clubs, particularly in the academy. We like playing games. We train people and coach people to go and see if they can do it in games. You'll be amazed how many clubs don't want games. You know, hence the game at Leicester today.
And tomorrow night.
I know we've only scratched the surface, but thanks for joining me here today. That's all we've got time for here on Saddlers TV. Join us next time.